Hello everyone and welcome back to episode 178 of your favourite Formula 1 show. Yes, Knowing Wheel is back, ready to preview the Canadian Grand Prix. Exciting times ahead as we move back across the pond for a one-off race in Montreal. And actually this week we've got some drama to get through, haven't we, as well, which is absolutely fantastic. And of course, to get through all of that drama, I need my partner in crime. It is, as always, JB183. How are you doing, my guy?
I'm very good, thank you. Yeah, excited for Canada. It's always one of the best races of the season, just in terms of maybe it's not the best race of the season. It's always a good race, I think, with the atmosphere and the fans, and the drivers seem to love it. Yeah, it's a good race.
It's a decent little track, isn't it, Montreal? It has been one of those ones that I feel has stood the test of time pretty well.
Yes.
But then again, it's kind of just Monza, which has been kind of a little bit stretched out and squashed in different places, isn't it? Because they're very similar.
They actually are extremely similar. I hadn't thought of that before. Yeah. Interesting. But yeah, it should be a good one. F1 have already started promoting it. Lance Stroll being the hero, as we know. And
oh, yeah.
I don't know if you saw on Instagram. It might have been on Twitter too. But they did a little cute video of groundhogs running around the track. But they happily left out the one where Grosjean absolutely...
I was going to say, I'm sure the top comment on any of those would be Grosjean flattening one.
Yeah, which maybe laugh, but yeah, I'm sure we'll see some of them as well come FP1 and 2.
Yes, yeah, I'm sure as we get into the weekend. I must admit, though, I quite like Canada as well, because it's one of the only races, that and Miami, in like the first 2/3 of the season that's an evening race. So if you're in the UK, race start is 7 PM UK. I quite like that, a Sunday night race. It's why I quite enjoy watching IndyCar this year. Because like you sit down at the end of a weekend and you just kind of have a bit of a relax.
Yeah, Sunday afternoon just feels a bit like you're actually doing stuff. Whereas I prefer the Sunday morning or the Sunday evening, to be honest.
I guess it's because you don't have to plan your day around it. Yeah, 4 AM is a bit tough.
4 AM at Australia wasn't the one. But I do like a 9 PM start or something like that, like we had in Miami.
Yeah, no, it's a vibe, isn't it? A late evening Grand Prix for us Europeans. I think European fans do need to moan less, generally. But 4 AM is cynical. It's a European sport at the end of the day now. But I mean, yeah, we've weirdly got a lot to talk about, don't we? And I mean, we were lucky we recorded this when we did.
We haven't missed the news for once. No,
haven't missed the news. Esteban Ocon, it's been confirmed that by, and I'm putting air quotes up, mutual agreement, him and Alpine will be going their separate ways at the end of the year, which I think was code for, we aren't rehiring you, sir.
I get the feeling this is more than a reaction to Monaco, personally, but I'm sure 100%. That didn't help his case.
Exactly.
But by the sounds of it, he's been on his way out since Bahrain. Like, he's been talking to other teams since he realised how bad Alpine were this season. And yeah, you've kind of reached the end of the cycle of, a driver getting towards at least the middle of his career, maybe the latter half, because I think it's 26, 27, is he?
Would you say the 26, 27 is the latter half of a
maybe
Formula 1 driver's career?
But he's not a young driver anymore. And he's been with that team for 5 years, and they've not really gone anywhere. So it's about time to move on. And I think he knew that when they qualified on the back row in Bahrain. So yeah, it does. It seems on the outside a reaction to what happened in Monaco, which he's got a 5-place grid penalty for this race. But I think it's been on the cards for longer than that.
Absolutely. I wonder whether the pressure immediately came in with the signing of Gasly. Obviously it's been well documented, literally since these two were children, that they have not got on. And, it's Alpine, isn't it? It's so head-scratchingly bizarre in their decision-making as an organisation. I mean, the fact that they're, one of 3 factory F1 teams? Obviously, you got them, Mercedes, and Ferrari, aren't you? The only factory Formula 1 teams at the moment.
Yeah.
The fact that, obviously, Ferrari, obviously have all their history and literally won the last Grand Prix. They're the only team this year where both of their drivers have won a race. Mercedes, we still say, are in a bit of the doldrums at the moment. And obviously, we spoke about that to great lengths about when they might actually find their way back to the front, if ever. Alpine, nearly 20 years now? I mean, you could make the argument that even the 2 titles they won back in 05 and 06 were a little bit lucky. I'm sorry, Fernando Alonso fans are going to hate on me here. But they're just not a serious F1 team, are they? At the end of the day.
Yeah, really, their heyday was in the 90s with Benetton, wasn't it? Before they were even Renault for the Enstone team. So, yeah, obviously they've had short-term success with Alonso back in the mid-2000s, and then I guess their most recent consistent winning ways were kind of 2012, 2013, but even that was 2 race wins.
2 race wins by Kimi Räikkönen.
The one they got with Ocon in very strange circumstances back in Hungary, 21. Yeah, they've not really, every couple of years they come up with a new 100 race plan. So that kind of says it all, really, doesn't it? They've been under this guise since 2016. And there was a bit of progress. Maybe they were on an upward trajectory till 2019, then it went backwards again. Then Ricciardo came in, it went all right again. Then Alonso came in, it kind of went backwards again. It's like they're just kind of there. They're not really doing very much with all their backing and finances. And every week we're hearing about somebody else being sacked, and this time it's Esteban Ocon, as well as somebody else at the start of the week, wasn't it? Back on, I think, Thursday or Friday. So, yeah, it's an interesting one.
They're just missing something, aren't they? Like you said, it's the fact that we've seen them already, 2 or maybe even 3 times over the last 8 years since they took back over Lotus, where they're able to get up to about 4th, and then they fall back off again, and get back to about 4th, and then they fall back off again, and they get back to about 4th. This time around has absolutely been the worst. But, it's all the other things going on within the way that team's run. It's the fact they're not Renault anymore. They're Alpine, a company that makes one car and only sells it in a small... I think it's only sold in Europe.
A car that I've been in.
You have, yeah. Well, I think it was the last ever video uploaded on your channel.
It was.
To this day. But, it's the idea that they go to the US or the Canadian Grand... all of the US Grand Prix now, or the Canadian Grand Prix. They don't sell Alpines in those countries. They're sold in Europe. What on earth are they gaining from... because I think, the old Alpines, the old A110s, that kind of thing, were absolute just beauties. But... it wouldn't surprise me if they turn around soon and they announce, because they're doing so badly, that they're going to rebrand it to Dacia or Dacia or however you pronounce it. There's so many issues within that organisation. And the big glaring one today has got to be the fact that successfully now, within the last 2 years, they have lost their golden boy in Esteban Ocon, their golden boy in Oscar Piastri, and their golden boy in Fernando Alonso. 3 drivers inside the last 2 years is abysmal. Never mind by a team that's got the financial backing that they could bankroll anyone they ever wanted within that organisation if they felt that way inclined.
Yeah, it's just mismanagement. And it's mismanagement how they ended up with the sign-up in the first place, because anyone could see that a partnership of Gasly and Ocon was never going to work. And they were kind of forced into this problem because of their mismanagement of the Alonso Piastri situation. Well, they had Piastri in their hands, and they were going to put him at Williams for 2 years rather than put him in the seat. So, yeah, it was never going to last. It was totally a marriage of convenience having Gasly and Ocon driver in the same team. And yeah, clearly Ocon was the easier one to get rid of because he's been there for longer.
It's just... we always knew, didn't we, when this was announced, that it was going to be short term. To be fair, they haven't actually come together that often on track. I'm trying to think. It's only really the second occasion. Australia, but even that, I think, is a little bit kind of clutching at straws, isn't it? Because that was just restart mayhem, and they were a bit unlucky that they ended up with each other when they did. And obviously Monaco last week.
They've had so many problems of just pride getting in the way of the team, really, where one of them's instructed to give slipstreams to the other one in qualifying, or let one through to get a clean lap in qualifying. They just don't do it. They've had loads of little issues like that, but none of them have really made the headlines, much like Monaco did.
No.
Yeah, but that does take us nicely onto a very early quiz.
Okay, we're going for a really early quiz. We're really shoehorning that in there when we've still got much more to talk about with Ocon.
Don't
worry. Go for it.
It's about Ocon, actually.
Oh, okay.
And it's about Gasly.
Okay.
Because between them, they have 7 podiums in Formula 1.
Oh, no.
Where's my phone? Oh, no. There we go. Got my timer. They have 7 podiums. In total, they have shared the podium with 7 other drivers. So we're looking for anyone who has been stood on a podium with either Ocon or Gasly. And you've got a minute. Go.
Max Verstappen, Carlos Sainz, Sergio Perez, Lance Stroll, I believe.
Yes.
Daniel Ricciardo.
Nope.
Lewis Hamilton.
Yes. Doing well. 2 left.
Lando Norris.
Nope.
No. Oh no, I'm trying to think. Who's on the 2020 Italy podium? Obviously, I've already said Carlos Sainz. I just need to start naming drivers, don't I? Sergio Perez, Valtteri Bottas.
Nope.
I've already said Ricciardo. Albon. Kvyat.
No. 18 seconds.
Vettel. Raikkonen.
Yep.
Bottas.
No.
I've already said Bottas. Roman Grosjean. Pastor
One more,
Maldonado.
not Grosjean. No.
One more. Oh no. Are they still on
I'm
the
not sure
grid?
Maldonado raced with either of them.
No, he didn't. Brendan
then
Hartley.
time's up.
Oh, this was terrible. Can you... I don't know. I panicked. I think as soon as you started reading out that quiz story, I was like, I know exactly what he's going to ask me. I'm on for it here. I was like, I know Brazil 2019.
You did
I
well.
know
You did
Bahrain
well.
20. But I could not
Actually,
think of Gasly.
Gasly's 2 most recent podiums. Sorry, no. The 2 most recent podiums for both of them, as in Gasly and Ocon's podiums last year, had the same
I forgot
other 2 drivers.
Didn't they? Alonso.
Yeah, that was one you missed.
Damn it! Yeah, I
Both
completely
the
forgot
podiums
about
they
Monaco.
shared
Yeah,
were
with Alonso and
Verstappen
Verstappen.
win, Alonso second. Yeah.
So
there you go. You got the rest.
They got 2 podiums last year.
Yeah. So just Fernando Alonso. Definitely not Brendan Hartley.
Not Brendan Hartley. No, I had to try.
Yeah,
I was going to guess Andre Lotterer, but you know, he's always a nice niche when we get in there somehow every week. I mean, go back to Esteban Ocon then. Obviously, he has on paper got quite a few options, doesn't he, for next year? But we've really kind of let's just tick one straight off. It's not going to be Red Bull. Because Perez is apparently imminent on a re-signing. Apparently just because he sells loads of merch on their shop. Which is just hilarious. Apparently he makes up 2/3 of Red Bull's merch sales. I don't think anyone's mentioned them. Verstappen sells his own merch on his own website.
Yeah, Verstappen sells a lot of orange t-shirts, but clearly the population of the Netherlands is not that comparable to Mexico.
But nobody sells them all on Verstappen.com. Not sponsored. It's not done through Red Bull.
Yeah, so it's quite amusing that the team is so happy with Verstappen basically being a one-man team that they can just employ somebody to sell shirts. It's surprising they haven't just put Ricciardo in there then in that case.
I was going to say, we're after Monaco, Ricciardo should have been in that seat by now.
Yeah, she should have been. And you put Perez, 11th in the championship?
I think so, yeah. I mean, he might end up there, to be fair, by the end of the year.
Your pre-season predictions had Perez off the grid for Canada, so I'm going to be surprised if he turns up.
So am I.
Yeah. So Perez is going to be at Red Bull. Not going to be Mercedes, realistically, I don't think.
Hang on a minute, he used to be a Mercedes Junior.
He did, and then they sent him off to Renault. Yeah, never looked back. But yeah, I mean it's an option, but the murmurs and the talk of the paddock is that Antonelli is stronger and stronger, looking like a shoe-in for that seat.
And who's been saying that since the start of the year?
To be fair to you, that was one you called because I didn't back it at all. But now
you'd still have been. It's been hilarious when Jamie and I were talking pre-show. Because he's been saying, Antonelli, he reckons sadly now might go to Merck. And you know what ties in beautifully with Jamie's levels of denial, which he's finally starting to accept? He's going through the 7 stages of grief, aren't you? Because you're finally accepting that Zhou Guanyu probably isn't going to have a drive next year.
Yes, which is very sad. Despite being ahead of Bottas in the championship right now as well.
Is he? Oh yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, I suppose he had an 11th, hasn't he? Bottas should have scored points on like 3 occasions.
But has he? No, he hasn't.
No,
and a P9.
can't do a pit stop.
Joe got a P9 in a sprint race, so that's basically 2 points.
That doesn't count on countback, though, does it? How do the sprints work with countback?
I don't think countback. I don't think sprints affect the countback. But even so, he's ahead with that P11 in Bahrain.
He is. Yeah.
Yes, I would be surprised if Joe finds a seat to land in, which is very sad because there's kind of if Anthony goes to Mercedes as we expect, James Allison today said that he's looking very good in the testing days he's doing in the old Mercedes cars. So that's looking like a done deal. Perez is looking like a done deal. That locks off the top 5 teams, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. Well, to be fair, there's still technically a second seat at Aston Martin.
Well, with the Stroll's name written all over it.
Exactly. It's so funny. We will never get an announcement about it, but Stroll, obviously is.
He's still not even announced to be driving for Racing Point yet. So
he's not from 5 years ago. It's so funny.
So that just leaves 1 seat each at each of the bottom 5 teams, really. Apart from even RB, yeah. So you got 1 at Williams, obviously next to Albon. 1 at Haas, that we expect Behrman to be in the other one. 1 at Audi next to Hulkenberg.
Yep.
1 at Alpine next to Gasly.
Yep.
And 1 at RB, probably next to Tsunoda, which looks like Liam Lawson, to be honest.
Okay.
But Tsunoda also, there's talk about him going somewhere, so that one's a bit up in the air. But you expect Lawson to be in one of those RB seats for sure.
Yes. Well, I'm going to immediately then try and segue. Still, obviously talking about that, but segueing slightly, because I was going to say, if I was Alpine right now, and I'm really happy I'm not, because let's be fair, their management skills are terrible, and I don't want to be held accountable for that. If I was trying to get any driver on the F1 grid right now, I would absolutely be targeting all of my effort on Yuki Tsunoda.
I think that's a great
Alpine
shout.
team.
Just have Red Bull rejects at your. I mean, half the grid is Red Bull rejects.
Exactly.
Really, aren't
Exactly.
They? I mean, Gasly and Tsunoda get on very well, as we know.
Point number 1.
Yeah, Tsunoda's very quick. Point 2.
Tsunoda has probably been the best driver of the bottom 5 teams this year. I think it would be hard to argue otherwise. He's absolutely had the best car as well of those bottom 5 teams. I think
him and Hulkenberg.
That's what I was going to say. Between him and Hulkenberg have easily been the best 2 of those bottom 5 teams.
Yes.
But of course, obviously, Hulkenberg's signed on elsewhere, so that doesn't matter kind of in that regard.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. The other one that Alpine could go for is Jack Doohan, of course, who is their reserve driver, and they do like him, and he's been loyal to the team. And I wouldn't hate that. I don't mind Jack Doohan getting a drive, to be honest.
The thought of having 3 Australians on the grid is absolute insanity.
I mean, do you think Ricciardo will be?
Well, I did also think that, how long's Ricciardo actually going to be still on the grid? Perhaps there's like a rule in Australian Formula 1 law that you can only have 2 there.
Yeah, it's like the Sith in Star Wars. Always 2.
Exactly. But I mean, basically, you've kind of, like I said, you've got, because let's not forget as well, you got Carlos Sainz still potentially available. It would be an odd move for him to end up back at Alpine/Renault, but he's kind of screwed himself over, hasn't he?
I would argue the best seat in terms of performance, or expected performance in 2025, let's say, the best seat available probably is the Alpine seat.
But are you going to be looking at 2025, or are you going to be looking further in the future? Because let's be fair.
So you've kind of got those 5 seats in the bottom 5 teams, and you have the likes of Sainz, Ocon, Bottas. They're all race winners, and even like a Tsunoda could go anywhere. Even Ricciardo, if you want to throw him in there. Magnussen. There's tons. I mean, throw Joe in for my sympathy.
Penny for your thoughts.
Yeah. There's tons of options, and really just 5 seats left.
Well, let's be fair. Yeah. If you're trying to decide on a new contract between, if you're a Carlos Sainz or a Bottas or an Ocon, like you said, you're not really thinking about 2025 at this point, is it? You are trying to get yourself on a minimum of a 2-year deal. Basically, go into a team going, you are my best hope for 2026 when the new regs come in. Because, of course, yeah, we say this every time. But sensibly, the top 5 teams that we've currently got, and maybe Audi, are going to end up being the top 5 teams when those new rules come in pretty quickly. It's not going to change around a huge amount, is it?
Alpine might sneak ahead of Aston Martin, but we'll see.
Yeah, but I think to say at least 3 of those top 5 teams will still end up being the top 3 teams, or 3 of the top 5 teams still.
Yeah.
You're basically going, if Ocon walked into Haas, which apparently he has done, you're basically saying to them, I believe you're going to accidentally get the rules quite good early on and we're going to enjoy a year or 2. And then you're going to probably ship me off when you think you can get someone better in.
Or
it's
Ocon will find a seat somewhere better. Yeah. It is a little bit like, it's rare actually that the drivers, like, I don't know, it feels like the teams pick the drivers they want, and then you often get kind of people like drivers picking over the teams that no one wants to go to. But this time around, it's kind of, we've got very, very capable, solid drivers having to fight over these seats that no one wants. So usually, you'd pick up an F2 driver who's done it right, like Nikita Mazepin or Nicholas Latifi. I'm not going to say the third name on my mind because that would hurt me too much. That you kind of end up with these kind of caliber of drivers kind of filling those rubbish seats for a couple of years and then they're gone. But now you've got like 3 race winners all looking for a drive at these rubbish teams that are going to be like a second off the pace in 2025 probably. Yeah, it's just interesting, and I think the bottom half of the grid is interesting to watch this season, but it will be even more interesting next season because you're going to have a lot of reasonably decent level names in that fight.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to be fair, obviously we've spoke about it before, haven't we? At one point you were fairly adamant that Sainz to Mercedes was pretty much a shoo-in, weren't you? I'm going to say, in this moment, if you're a Valtteri Bottas or a Carlos Sainz, you might still end up in that. Because let's be fair, if Antonelli, for whatever reason, ends up having a really topsy-turvy season in Formula 2, which, to be fair, first couple of rounds were already looking that way, but has seemed to kind of brought it back to close to where we were expecting. In some hypothetical world where he doesn't get the super license points, because that's Sainz's big problem, isn't it, at the moment? Obviously, he wanted that deal made with Mercedes, and they went, we want to see how Kimi's going to do. Yeah. And of course, obviously, for Sainz, you cannot afford to run that risk, because if they then sign Antonelli and everyone else has got their deals in place, suddenly you're out for a year. And as we've seen so many times in Formula 1 in recent times, that's you gone. If you're a Valtteri Bottas, though, you're in your mid-30s. Are you so worried? I wonder. Are you thinking, I could go back to Merc for a year, potentially. Whether anything good comes from that, I'll get paid a good amount of money. I think it's always difficult when we talk about these hypotheticals, because at the end of the day, they're all competitors. They all want to win. But if you're a Valtteri Bottas, are you going to be so worried about, actually, I'll go back to Merc. I know the blokes there. I enjoyed it. I'll go back for a year, make some money, and then kind of see where we're at in 2026, because I know Kimi's going to be having me seat anyway.
Yeah, that's the problem with the Mercedes seat is, even if Antonelli doesn't get it this year,
he's going to be there soon.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you kind of got, will Bottas risk it? I don't know, potentially. And also throw in, there's a bunch of F2 drivers doing extremely well, like the likes of Zane Maloney, Paul Aaron, who's a rookie, top of the championship right now. Like, where do they fit in? Obviously, Teo Porcher is still off the grid. Like, there's, a lot of drivers vying for, realistically, 5 not very good seats. So, it will all come together at some point.
Oh, well, they have to, won't it? And I think, exactly. It's one of those things as well, isn't it, of there desperately needs to be new rules put in place that allows... obviously now how we have the rule that you need to have 2, or I think it's 6 now, isn't it? 6 free practice ones to a driver that's had less than 2 Grand Prix experience. So basically rookies in the cars. They desperately need to overhaul that more to encourage teams to test more rookie drivers in more sessions. But it's very, very difficult to work out how exactly they do that. Whether it's just, each team is given an allotted amount of extra testing mileage they can do that has to be done by a junior, or that kind of thing. Which, of course, then means the teams can use them for a bit of data for the car. They can also work out whether the driver's any good, because that's been the problem, hasn't it, recently?
Yeah.
Is we've kind of had... I would say Yuki's probably been the only middle ground of either drivers that have come in that we already... your Oscar Piastris, we knew were going to come in and absolutely just get up to speed. Or have come in, trashed the car for a year or 3 if you're Latifi, and gone again. Yuki and I guess you could argue Zhou.
Zhou's done nothing wrong. He's just not been particularly fast.
He just hasn't really done a lot right, has he? Bless him. It's just that thing of... And even Yuki's a bit of an edge case, because of course we knew he was at Racing Bulls or Visa Cash Up, whatever we're calling them. So of course you're given, theoretically, more opportunity. Sometimes you're not.
And he
sometimes
crashed it a lot in his first year.
First year, Yuki stacked that thing wildly, didn't he?
Many times. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'd quite like to see Alpine go for Doohan, if I'm honest.
I could see
I'm
it
not sure it would happen.
I think if you're Victor Martins, you're desperately hoping you get your season back on track. Because let's be fair, he's been an absolute disaster so far. I think is he last now in F2? I think
he's down there.
I don't think he's scored a point yet, has he?
He was in the title fight, wasn't he, last year?
Ish, yeah. F2 2024 standing. I don't believe he scored a point yet this season. Because obviously he had 2 absolute stinkers in Monaco when he should have been on points. Victor Martins, has 11 20th. Points. Yeah, 20th. Only ahead of Taylor Barnard and Rafael Villagomez.
Yeah. Even like Gavi Bortoletto is overseas McLaren Junior, so probably won't get a seat next year, but he's going to be all right at some point in his career. He'll be on the grid one day, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I just think, you've got really those 4 seats. I think Sainz, Bottas and Ocon will all be on the grid next year, personally, in some seat. And
look, well, you go on then. You got 1 seat at Williams, 1 seat at Haas, 1 seat at Audi, 1 seat at Alpine, and 1. Are we? What are we saying about VCARB there? Because you kind of threw that left wing to me. Because I'm kind of thinking that either
Lawson has to be in one of them.
He doesn't though. Apparently, does he? Because Red Bull literally came out. El Marco came out last week. Because obviously we'd all kind of heard that rumour, hadn't we? Or it had been kind of half confirmed that it was, you're not having a seat this year, but you're guaranteed one next year.
Yeah.
And Red Bull now, it's probably something going, Adrian
famously
Newey
never
signed that
break
contract.
their promises.
Exactly. And he's not here anymore, so you can't really be here anymore, and all this, that, and the other. I don't know.
So if I was going to predict, which never goes that well on this channel, I would say Sainz to Audi next to Hulkenberg.
You still reckon that's going to happen, do you? You don't think
Audi
are bored of offering huge money and him not accepting?
I think Sainz will either go to Audi or Williams, but my favourite will be Audi. I'll go Audi.
Yeah. I think
I
him
will
and Hulk
say
in a team
that will cook.
Spicy.
Haas is Behrman in one of them. Maybe Ocon in the other one. That could be a lineup.
Interesting.
I think Williams could very easily be Albon Bottas.
Yep.
And I think Alpine will be Gasly Doohan. And I think VCARB will be Tsunoda Lawson. How about that?
Interesting. Very.
That would be that's a good lineup. And who's getting binned then? Because that would just be Joe out, wouldn't it? And Sargent.
Zoe and Sargent.
And Ricciardo.
And Ricciardo.
And Magnussen as well. No seat
and
for him.
Magnussen. Yeah, you're getting rid of a lot of people there.
I am. That's maybe unintentional, but it is what it is.
I think Williams, I feel like is going to end up being obviously Albon, and I think I'm with you in saying Bottas, but I could also very easily sort of see him staying at Audi, kind of on the idea that I'm getting dropped to the end of next year, but I just don't want to have to move, that kind of thing.
Can't be bothered anymore.
Potentially. I think Alpine, I am going to say Gasly Tsunoda. I don't think Alpine... I'm trying to look through Alpine's juniors at the moment. Who have they really got as a junior driver?
the obvious one.
Doohan's the obvious one, but he's not doing anything this year. And as we've seen before, Alpine's mismanagement of their drivers is just terrible. They kind of have junior drivers and forget. Gabriele Mini, yeah.
He's too early, but he's doing well at F3, but obviously that's F3.
Exactly. Yeah, you gotta do F2,
and that's kind of it. Obviously Martins, but he's having an absolute shocker.
If Martins could recover, then I think he'd have a better shot, but I think they'll go with Yuki. I think V-Carb then, I could see it being Ricciardo and Lawson, simply just to help Lawson embed himself within the team, having Ricciardo there.
A friendly Australian next to him.
Exactly. Haas, the thing I think with Haas at the moment is, if you have got a pretty good idea that you've got Ollie Behrman, in your car next year, do you think Esteban Ocon is going to be the man you want alongside him to try and train your new rookie driver? Because let's be fair, Ocon is going to turn around and go, I'm not giving him setup data, I'm not helping him with it, I'm not helping him with that. He can do all the stuff I don't want to do. He can do all the dirty work within the team, the sponsored stuff that Alonso made him
Magnussen
do.
In that case.
That's what I was going to say. I genuinely wonder whether Magnussen sat down with them and gone, look, Hulk's gone next year. I know how this team works. I've been here long enough. I know you got Behrman in. I know he's probably down the line going to be, either your future star or be going off to Ferrari down the line. I am willing to stay here, maybe have a bit of a pay cut, but keep me, and I will give him everything I know in this team as well. As kind of a help me to help you kind of thing.
Yeah.
Why have that unknown of someone that's had beef with every single teammate he's ever had? Because like we said before, it's the things, for example, like we've never seen that side of Checo before or since.
No.
That kind of, it makes you wonder, what is Ocon like behind the scenes? Because I really do get the sense sometimes that he's just a bit nasty.
Yeah, I don't warm to him. I'll put it that way.
He's the kind of guy that I feel like you'd sit down with a meeting with the big boss, the pair of you and like a load of engineers, and he'd be the one that when everyone gets up to leave, he goes, "Oh, sorry, actually, Bruno, I just want to have a quick extra word with you." And it would just be really sort of, slimy, scummy kind of thing, I think, with Ocon.
Yeah, we don't like Ocon in this podcast, but each their own. We don't.
Exactly.
I think he'll be in the grid. I just don't know where.
Well, that's the thing. I'm sort of running through those going, hang on a minute, in my world, he's not on the grid. And honestly, I reckon this might genuinely be the end of Esteban Ocon's career as we know it.
Well, because let's flip that up.
Exactly. You sort of think, you were at Alpine, a works team. Let's be fair, there was an element of, you're French. And we know Alpine are still very much tied in French politics, that kind of thing. They're government-backed, everything like that.
Yep.
Was he there because he's French? Red Bull are never going to have him, as long as they got Verstappen. It just would not happen.
Yeah, they don't really get on, do they?
Mercedes have got George and Antonelli. Ferrari are never going to have him, are they? He's not the next coming of Jean Alesi. Or Alain... Well, they don't want Alain Prost again or anything like that. McLaren, they could be locked down for the next decade and a half if they wanted to be.
Yeah.
The only way I see anything bad happening between those two is obviously if they end up in a Hamilton-Rosberg title fight down the line. Or, who am I forgetting? Aston Martin.
That's Lance Stroll's seat, and he was the one who got kicked out in the first place for him.
Yeah. Would Stroll want Ocon alongside him?
They get on. I know they do get on. They were F3 teammates back in the day. And you know how on Secret Santa they always put the friends together? I think 2 or 3 years in a row it's been Stroll buying for Ocon all the way around.
It's because they're the outcasts, so isn't it?
Yeah.
The pair of them. Yeah, it's very odd. Very, very odd.
We should move on.
We should.
Talk about Canada.
Well, I was going to say, actually, have you heard the interesting rumblings that came out yesterday about McLaren?
I don't think I have. What's going on?
There's been a little bit of upset in the Formula 1 paddock. Charles Leclerc was the first to talk about this. Mercedes apparently have now kind of gone to the FIA about this, and the FIA have come out now going, Mercedes, we need one of your fuel pumps. McLaren, we'd like one of your modified fuel pumps for their engine.
Interesting.
The rumour mill, and again, this is all speculation, The rumour mill is that it might be a little bit like Ferrari 2019.
So McLaren are cheating.
Well, Ferrari never were cheating, were they, Jamie?
Interesting. So if we see McLaren suddenly drop off the pace this weekend, then we know why.
Know why, exactly. No, only when the new technical directive comes out.
Oh, when's that coming out?
Who knows?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I've just seen a tweet from a pretty, Formula Racers, which is a pretty good account.
It's not. Don't try to... Who have they nabbed the tweet from? That will decide whether it's decent.
Formula Uno. I don't know.
Okay, Italian media.
Oh, okay. Well, Ricciardo is expected to stay at V-Car for 2025.
Okay, that'll be Tsunoda to Alpine then with a bit of luck.
Tsunoda to Alpine, Lawson in, or Lawson not on getting a seat, which is absolutely awful.
Yep,
he should go to Alpine then. Lawson to Alpine.
Lawson to Alpine.
Why not? He's better than doing.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Get him in.
No, I'd rather see Tsunoda go there.
Yeah, we've obviously got a three-way title fight now between Leclerc, Norris and Verstappen.
Obviously.
According to the hyperinflated media.
Yep.
Do you think that's a legit thing?
I think only now people are realising Charles Leclerc has been fantastic this year. He has not finished worse than 4th so far this season.
Yeah.
It's the best start to a season he's ever had, despite 2022. Apparently, he had the best start anyone's ever been capable of having in Formula 1, because he had more than double the points of anyone by round 3. But this season, he's done better over the first 8 races. I mean, we speak about this, don't we? I think you'd still need a bit more of a seismic shift away from Red Bull. But I feel like this, it'll be Verstappen will end up wrapping it up with like 3 rounds to go in a sprint race or something dumb like that again.
Johnny Herbert will declare him champion in an interview.
Exactly, yeah. It'll be the most eggy thing in the world again. Because Verstappen can't win a title normally.
I think that we may have a fight in the constructors on our hands.
That I will absolutely say.
But the Drivers' Championship will go to Max Verstappen.
Yeah, and I still, if I had to put money on anyone.
I think Max has genuinely had quite an unlucky start to the season.
I would also argue that's fairish.
He's 31 points clear, despite an extra DNF reliability. And he lost the win in Miami by pure luck. So
I think he was lucky to be in that position in the first place in Miami. I think this is the odyssey of Max Verstappen, isn't it? Still, at the end of the day. Because, of course, everyone knows on this podcast, I'm certainly not his number one advocate. And there's been a couple of times, qualifying, for example, this year, there's been quite a few occasions where everyone has struggled and yet somehow he's ended up on pole. Which there's only so many times you can say everyone struggled and he's ended up on pole before you go, actually, he's just doing a better job on Saturday.
Yep.
Which has absolutely, I will hold my hand up in a minute, has absolutely been the case on a couple of occasions this year. But has also been helped by the fact that Leclerc, what normally has been his strong point, has been qualifying. Hasn't always been right there this year because that Ferrari's been more difficult. And then probably the car that actually should have taken away a few pole positions this year, being that McLaren, Lando and Oscar aren't particularly qualifiers, and helped by the fact that they have both made a couple of mistakes in qualifying as well. It's that weird thing of, has Max been lucky, or has other drivers been a bit unlucky, and kind of where does that all balance?
Yeah, I think Max has performed extremely well this year. Probably the best driver on the grid in terms of performance.
I think it's always difficult to judge, isn't it? Because, of course, it was a bit like Hamilton in like 2020, 2021, that kind of thing. Oh, sorry, 20... I don't know. It's sort of within that era. It's so many years of domination that suddenly when they aren't dominating anymore, people think they've fallen off.
Yeah.
When actually
Verstappen is still... Yeah. He's 8-0 up on his teammate in qualifying and 8-0 up in the races.
Yeah, but it is Checo Perez.
Well, 7-0, I guess, because of Melbourne. But
Yeah.
I expect Verstappen to win. Getting on for half of the races remaining, probably. And the other drivers will split the other half between them. Because I think Norris will pick up wins. I think Leclerc will. Sainz might get 1 or 2 more, and so might Piastri. So, yeah. I think Verstappen will... It'll be like the second half of 2019, where, yes, there's some exciting races, different winners.
Yeah.
But Max like Lewis did back then, will win enough races to kind of keep everyone at arm's length.
Oh yeah,
and Leclerc and Norris are going to retire from a race at some point.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. What'll happen is Leclerc might get a really good result in Canada. The gap will be down to like 14 points, and suddenly by the summer break it will be 40, and we don't know how. Just because Ferrari will have a bad weekend, Leclerc will have a bad weekend, and I guess the problem, of course, there as well is even if Leclerc's having a bit of a ropey weekend, Carlos Sainz ain't going to be his mate anymore. Why do I care?
Yeah, exactly.
Very, very difficult, isn't it? Very difficult.
It is indeed. But we should get on to predictions and wrap it up, really.
We should. Canada. What are the scores on the doors? You got really lucky last week, didn't you?
We tied, actually, because I put Sainz P3, which shouldn't have happened. So I'm on 37, and you're on 32.
Oh, so I'm 5, but at least I get to pick first again.
You get to go first.
Do I go really boring? I mean, everyone's saying this isn't going to be a good Red Bull track.
Yeah.
Which makes you want to believe.
Do you believe?
I try not to, wherever possible. Oh, Jamie, fun fact, actually, before we go into predictions. Can you tell me the last Canadian Grand Prix McLaren scored in? Have you seen this stat this week? Scored a single point.
Well, I'm guessing it wasn't recent. It could be way back. It could be like 2014.
Bang on. They have not scored a point in Canada in 10 years.
That's insane.
They would have last year, got a penalty. But yeah, apart from that, it's just never been a track that suited him.
Because Button got 4th there, didn't he, ahead of Hulkenberg? Yeah, wow. That's incredible.
Absolute insane stat, wasn't it? When I read that, I was like, no, surely not. And then, it's the other race as well. You think, obviously, Lando had the rear brake failure, that kind of thing. Yeah, that blew up the suspension. Madness, isn't it? Predictions, though. Oh, do I dare believe? Who's been good on the straights, man? Red Bull. Don't really suit you. I don't know. Do I be really stupid? I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna be dull. I'm gonna be boring. I'm gonna let you pick the bowl calls, and so I get 8 points out of it. Max, Lando, Charles.
Great. I will go Leclerc on pole.
Yes,
it's a bumpy track.
What's that got to do with anything?
Red Bull don't like the bumps very much.
Is Canada that bumpy apart from the groundhogs?
Well, yeah, it was bumpy for Grosjean that time, wasn't it? Red Bull doesn't like the curbs very much, and you kind of have to curb ride at Canada. I've found. I've never been. I've never been, but I have raced it a couple of times on the F1 game.
Well, I'll say I've done it on iRacing, which is a lot more accurate.
I will then say Max Verstappen will still win the race.
Fair enough. So you're going the same as me.
I will go. Who did you say second? Norris and Leclerc, was it?
Yes, yeah.
I'll go Leclerc and Piastri.
Okay, so you're basically on the same as me, except for pole and P3.
No, that's very different. You said Leclerc.
Oh, sorry, Norris, Leclerc. Yeah, I forgot who I predicted.
Yeah, Piastri's been better than Norris recently, so yeah.
Fair enough. I like
Piastri should have beaten him in Miami. Did beat him in Monaco.
I like the hopium. Like the hopium. We love it. We live for it, James.
Should have beaten him at Imola as well. That's 3 races in a row.
Yeah, madness, isn't it? Absolute madness. Have we got anything else to add? Jamie 183.
No.
No? You sound sure?
Confident. Lawrence Barretto has tweeted.
Wow.
Jack Doohan has a strong shot at replacing Esteban Ocon. Valtteri Bottas very much in the mix too. Alpine are keen on Carlos Sainz, but it seems Spaniard is leaning towards Williams or Audi. Mick Schumacher is an outsider.
Oh, don't say Mick Schumacher.
No chance.
Shocking.
Not a chance.
Shocking. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching. If you have enjoyed, please do make sure to leave a like, get yourself subscribed, all that good stuff. And we'll be back next week to review the Canadian Grand Prix, won't we, Jamie?
We will.
5 away from the big one.